This is the most excited I've ever been for a marathon to watch it.
Really?
Yeah.
Most excited. More exciting than Breaking 2.
Yes.
More excited than any Olympic trials.
Yeah.
More excited than
the Olympics.
Galen Rupp debut.
All of it. All of it.
More excited than your first marathon.
Yeah. In retrospect, shouldn't have been excited at all about that one. It combines a lot of the things you just brought up. All right. Breaking 2 had Kipchoge. We have Kipchoge. A debut. This has a debut element to it because it's his first time in Boston on this historic course. Trials. What do we like about trials? Straight up competition. Clock doesn't really matter. That's what you got because you got
Clock
Evans
doesn't
Jabet,
matter. Yeah.
and you got Benson Kipruchu. You have a stacked field going against him. If it was Kipchoge and a weak field, we would still be fascinated because then the story would be Kipchoge versus the course, maybe Kipchoge versus the clock if the weather cooperates. But we don't have a weak field, Gordon. We have a very, very good field here lined up to go against him. And you have real stakes here because he just ran a world record. So we can't say he's past his peak. We have to say he is at his peak right now. However, we also need to think about his age and think about how racing opportunities are few and far between. How many more chances is he going to get at Boston?
He needs to go 1 for 1.
That we don't know. And then you move ahead to New York and he probably needs to go 1 for 1. Maybe he'll come back next year if he doesn't win it. But we've never really been in that situation because every marathon he's run, with 2 exceptions, he's won.
Yeah.
So he never needs to worry about, hey, am I going to come back as the guy who got beat? That's really hasn't been a scenario that's familiar to Kipchoge. And I just think the thing that is so unique about this is that he's doing Boston not at the tail end of his career, not in the twilight, but coming off of a world record when interest in him is still growing. It couldn't be any higher right now. We are witnessing Pete Kipchoge, and we get to see Pete Kipchoge on this course against his field. That's why.
It's crazy.
I'm
We've
excited.
been saying Pete Kipchoge now for like 8 years.
100%. And it's so weird because he keeps pushing it back and pushing it back.
You give him another way? Nope, it's still going up.
We would have accepted Kipchoge on this course at the back end of his career.
Yeah.
Oh, man, he hasn't won his last 2, but maybe he can recreate the magic. We would have accepted that.
Get 7th, and we're like, oh, it was good to see you.
Because you want to see him on Broadway, right?
Yeah.
You want to see the biggest in the sport compete on the biggest stages.
You mean Broad Street?
No, Broadway. It's like this is the big time.
Broadway is New York.
Yeah, I know, but it's the big show, right? Like
you can't use New York analogies on a Boston course, man.
Okay.
Come on, they're like rivals.
You want to see him in the Garden.
There you go.
You want to see him in the Garden at his peak.
Wait, no, that's Madison Square Garden.
No, Boston Garden, the parquet floor.
Okay.
Theater, I'll give you the advantage on. Hoops history, I'm going to go with me. You just want to see these figures compete at the places that have the most history where it means so much and where there's just this tradition and level of excellence that's expected. And I think it's going to be fantastic. He always delivers. He's won 17 of the 19 marathons that he's run. He never pulls out of a race. He never drops out of a race.
Much respect.
Yeah.
You're the GOAT when you refuse to DNF. Question now. Kevin, you're really good at reading body language. You're really good at reading the vibe of people around them.
People have told me that before.
Yes. So the thing about marathon running is they kind of go into hibernation. Yeah, we see maybe a couple Strava segments, see a couple Instagram posts about their sponsorships or whatever, but we don't really know what's going on because they race so rarely. They race 1 or 2 or 3 times a year, right? So we have really no feasible thing to go off of for Kipchoge except for his last race, which was a world record, but he could have twisted his ankle and have a stomach ache, and we don't know what he's, we don't know, right?
Yeah.
But what you can know is you can read body language. And we had an interview with him that we just uploaded onto YouTube and our website. 12 minutes of him on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
What's your body language reading? Does he look like he is classic Kipchoge? Does he look like he's hiding something? Does he look like he's
not 100%?
Does he look like he knows he's 100%? Like, what's your read on it?
No. See, the thing with Kipchoge is how he acts and what he says always exudes confidence, and then he always delivers. So you make the connection between the two and think, hey, this guy's telling 100% honest truth here. How many times do you see the pre-race Boston interview or New York interview or Chicago or any major marathon, and the athlete goes on about how great the buildup was, and then they don't run well, and then afterwards they say, yeah, actually I missed some time.
That's true.
Kipchoge doesn't do that, and if he does, we never hear about it because all he does is win at these races. So I think body language looked good.
Grade A.
Grade A. I think the snippets, the little excerpts were great from what he said. He's always good at having those quotes that are so memorable. If he hadn't run a world record the last time out, maybe you'd say, well, it's his first time.
It's been a while since he's run.
And these other guys are really good.
The hills.
Well, that's the other thing. All right. I get it. Boston's more difficult than London.
Hills.
It's more difficult than
He's
Chicago.
never run. Kipchoge's never run up an incline before.
The way people talk about it is there's not a single hill in Kenya, and the Boston Marathon course is basically junior Mount Everest. It's like, calm down, people. He'll be fine. He will be fine. People run fast. They don't run as fast as Valencia on this course, but they run fine.
If your friend who ran Boston Marathon can get up the hill, I think Kipchoge can get up the hill.
One of the greatest endurance athletes
of
all time.
Heartbreak Hill. It's like, it hurt my friend who was running 4-hour pace, but Kipchoge, I don't know if he's going to do it.
And is it slower? Yes, assuming that we don't have the crazy tailwind behind us like we did in 2011. But yeah, the whole conversation about how this guy's never seen a hill and this is going to be the thing that's going to break him makes me really glad we have a legit field. So that way the discussion isn't Kipchoge versus the course. The discussion is Kipchoge versus Chebet and Kiprutu, who are really good, by the way. Those are the last two winners of the race. Chebet also won New York. Kiprutu ran Chicago. We got an interview with him, and he said he thinks his experience, he said like a home field advantage, basically, he thinks he has, because this is his fourth year in a row running it. Also, those guys are teammates. And they happen to be the two best guys, the two best candidates to beat him. So the fact that they're teammates could help a little bit. Now, if Kipchoge's on his game, I think we both agree, nobody's going to touch him. But the difference is there's enough variables to where it keeps this thing interesting. But he's won championship-style races before. He's won the Olympics twice. I think he'll handle the hills just fine.
We were talking about how the Boston Marathon, you have gambling odds on it, how it's not going to be eligible in the state of Massachusetts, but some other states. Right. Bovada, which is overseas, had lines for this. The line opened up, though, at like minus 110, which is basically even for Kipchoge, which is crazy. And it's now minus 400.
People were slamming.
So people were like, wait, you think I can double my money by just saying Kipchoge is going to win?
Yeah.
And they put lots of money. But now it's minus 400, which means you got to put down $400 to win 100.
Who's the second pick?
Right now it's tied between Kipruto and Chebet, plus 900. Elisa de Sisa, plus 1,400. Courier, 1,600. Katada, plus 2,200. So top American, Scott Fauble, plus 2,800 to win the Boston Marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Connor Mance, plus 2,800 to win the Boston Marathon. I don't know. 28-1, I feel like is even.
I still think there's value on Kipchoge.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet
I feel like for American to win this, it would need to be, 50-1 in my opinion, not 28-1.
Yeah, you'd need just a massive upset. There are years to pick the big upset. This is not the year to pick the big upset because you have a guy who's basically unbeatable. And then even if he falters, you have two guys.
Yeah, backup people.
Yeah.
So talking about a little bit on the American side, Fauble and Mance, where do you think they're going to do? I mean,
this is such a deep race. You don't want to base it off of time, obviously, because it's Boston. You want to measure it off of plays. But I am interested to see those two against each other, how they match up. And then Ben True is also in the mix, and there's a lot of other good Americans in the race. Mance, this is the second one. And it's a different style of running than he did in Chicago. So I'd expect to see him make a leap up. We just won't see it in terms of the time, because if he goes out and runs a 2:08 again, I think that's going to be a huge success. Fauble been around. I think we're going to see another solid run from him. I wouldn't expect anything less. He's usually brings it in these races. But yeah, it will be interesting, and some of it will be weather and conditions related. What does the pace start at? How many packs are there up front? Is it one gigantic one where they're all just jogging along and Kipchoge is reading excerpts from his upcoming autobiography? Or does he take the reins of the race, or does somebody else and Kipchoge follows that person because that person's really good? Do you remember the first half of Berlin, how quickly he went out? Remember, it was like, holy.
He might break too, yeah.
Yeah, like right near 60 flat. So, again, he's more familiar with that course than he is this course. That course is flatter. So I don't think he would do that. But he's also not just. I don't think he's just going to sit around to the last 5K and wait for it. And I think everything is keyed off of Kipchoge.